Scotland. A realm of mist-shrouded isles. A land of dramatic, rugged coastlines. Home to ancient castles and timeless traditions. Here, gentle mist caresses the age-old valleys. The haunting melody of bagpipes echoes through the streets. And dark waters mirror the infinite expanse of the sky. Welcome to Scotland. Welcome to a land of enchantment. Renowned for its unparalleled scenery, this is a place where time moves to the cadence of Atlantic tides. Where over 790 islands scatter across the deep blue waters. And where Gaelic still hums like an ancestral song. But let us begin at the start. Scotland unfolds like a geological tapestry above England. Divided into 3 distinct regions, each telling the story of the earth itself. The Northern Highlands Guardstone that is 3 billion years old. Silent observers of a primordial world. While the Central Belt reveals treasures buried deep underground. Rich with the coal and iron that forged the nation's industrial destiny. To the south, the southern uplands rise as gentle, rolling hills, in a landscape painted with broad strokes of emerald green. In this realm, nature has sculpted 2 contrasting coastlines. The east is soft and welcoming, with sandy shores reaching out toward the North Sea, while the west remains wild and untamed, where deep fjords, carved by ancient glaciers, mark the land like scars from the divine. Even the climate here mirrors this geographical duality. The west, caressed by the Atlantic Stream, wraps the Isles in a humid, rainy embrace, while the east enjoys drier, sunlit days, as if 2 different souls dwell under the same sky. Within this extraordinary landscape, the population of 5.5 million people clusters mainly in the Central Belt, between Edinburgh and Glasgow, leaving the vast highlands, which make up nearly 2/3 of the territory, with the lowest population density in all of Europe, creating a silence that amplifies the voice of the wind. This sparse population extends to the 790 islands, dotting the Scottish waters, of which only 90 are inhabited. Yet each preserves a distinct local culture. Skye, Mull, Arran, the Orkneys, and the Outer Hebrides are worlds unto themselves. Places where old ways still thrive in daily life. where Scottish Gaelic still resonates, keeping the heartbeat of cultural identity alive. Furthermore, this nation holds 90% of the UK's freshwater, thanks to its 30,000 lakes, known as lochs, which often reflect stormy skies and majestic peaks. Loch Lomond, for instance, is the largest lake by surface area, while Loch Ness hides in its depths not only ancient legends, but the largest volume of freshwater in the nation. And then, there are the clans. They still exist today, led by recognized chiefs. Each clan bears its own tartan, that distinctive pattern found on the traditional kilt, which, originally, was a practical garment for Highland shepherds. It served as an enveloping blanket, allowing freedom of movement through the heather, transforming into shelter during the cold nights. Today, these patterns tell stories of belonging and honor. While many castles remain inhabited by the founding families, finally, Scottish whiskey, the precious Scotch. It is not merely a beverage, but a true cultural art form, expressed through distinct production regions, each with its own unique character, from the peaty notes of the Hebrides to the delicate flavors of the lowlands. Scotland, therefore, is much more than a simple nation. It is an entire world, continuing to whisper its ancient story to anyone willing to listen and explore. But now, let us journey to the most incredible places of this land. Edinburgh. The Scottish capital captivates you at first glance. Edinburgh rises upon 7 volcanic hills, and every corner speaks of centuries past. The center is a tale of 2 distinct eras. The medieval Old Town, dominated by the castle atop its rocky throne, and the 18th century New Town, with elegant streets drawn with precision and grace. The Royal Mile is the most famous thoroughfare. It links the castle, which seems to erupt from the rock itself, to Holyrood Palace via a mile of cobblestone history, truly iconic. Edinburgh's architecture narrates 2 different times. In the Old Town, buildings soar up to 14 stories, medieval skyscrapers of dark stone reaching for the clouds. In the New Town, however, Georgian homes of golden sandstone prevail, with symmetrical facades and vibrant doors, creating postcard-perfect vistas. But to truly understand Edinburgh, you must climb Arthur's Seat, an ancient volcano, standing 251 meters high, watching over the capital. From its summit, the entire city spreads out below, with the North Sea shimmering on the horizon. Perhaps the most breathtaking view in all of Scotland. Isle of Skye. Where the coast embraces the Atlantic, rises an island emerging from a Celtic dream. Skye, the largest of the Inner Hebrides, is a world of mountains that challenge the heavens, and coastline shattering into fragments against the waves. The wind whispers ancient fables as you head toward Neist Point, the island's most westerly headland. Here, the land plunges into the ocean with dramatic force. The White Lighthouse, solitary since 1909, stands guard over vertiginous cliffs, where puffins and seagulls make their home. Then, there is the Old Man of Storm, rising with its rocky pinnacles, like the fingers of a giant pointing to the sky. At the fairy pools, crystalline waterfalls flow among the rocks, creating natural basins where, according to legend, the Highland Fae still bathe. Every valley conceals ruined castles and lochs, reflecting a perpetually shifting sky. Skye is not just a place, it is an emotion etched into memory forever. Loch Ness. In the depths of this 23-mile-long lake, something moves. Or so, the hopeful hearts of millions wish to believe, having scanned these dark waters for decades, hoping to glimpse Nessie, the world's most famous monster. But beyond the myth, this glacial lake in the highlands hides a wild beauty that needs no legendary beast to enchant you. Its shores are embraced by pine forests, echoing with the call of red deer, while ancient ruins like Urquhart Castle emerge from the morning mist like ghosts. The loch, notably, holds more water than all the lakes of England and Wales combined. And perhaps it is this vastness that makes any mystery plausible. The waters, in fact, plunge to depths of 230 meters, creating an underwater world still largely unexplored. Whether you believe in Nessie or not, one thing is certain. Nature has created a spectacle here that surpasses fantasy. Here, every ripple on the water ignites the imagination and brings back the wonder of childhood. Stirling. On a volcanic crag overlooking the plains, stands the castle where Mary, Queen of Scots, was born and lived, the most sorrowful monarch in Scottish history. Stirling has been called the key to Scotland, for whoever controlled this city controlled the gateway between the lowlands and the highlands. From the ramparts, your gaze sweeps over the battlefield of Bannockburn, where in 1314 the English were defeated, securing Scottish independence. A short distance away, the Church of the Holy Rood bears witness to centuries of history within its Gothic walls, while the surrounding cemetery guards the tombs of generations of Scots who served the crown. But another figure dominates the horizon. The 67-meter tower of the Wallace Monument, dedicated to William Wallace, the national hero who led the resistance against English invasion in the 13th century. From the top, the panorama extends to the first peaks of the Highlands. Stirling, therefore, is not just history, it is the symbol of Scotland's indomitable soul, where every stone echoes with the cry for freedom, spoken in the accents of generations of patriots. Glencoe. Imagine a valley where time seems to have halted in the 13th century. Glencoe opens before you like a wound in the earth, carved by glaciers and steeped in the bloodshed of history. Here, in 1692, one of Scotland's most infamous massacres occurred. The Campbells treacherously slaughtered the MacDonalds, who had hosted them, violating the sacred laws of Highland hospitality. But Glencoe is much more than a tragedy. Its mountains rise like guardians, including the Three Sisters, three enormous rocky peaks that dominate the glen. Every curve of the road reveals breathtaking panoramas, with waterfalls plunging from sheer walls, heather turning purple in the summer, and lochs reflecting an ever-changing sky. When the mist descends from the peaks to envelop the valley, you understand why this place has inspired both legends and nightmares. Glencoe is not merely a destination, but an experience, leaving you with the sense of having walked through history itself. St Andrews. The salty scent of the ocean here mingles with the incense of Gothic ruins. St Andrews is not just a picturesque university town overlooking the North Sea, but the spiritual heart of Scotland, where Christianity and academic tradition have intertwined for centuries. The cathedral ruins, once Scotland's largest, rise against the sky. Destroyed in 1559 by Protestant reformers, its walls continue to tell stories of pilgrimage and faith. Steps away, the University of St Andrews, Scotland's oldest, founded in 1413, hosts students walking the cobblestones in traditional red gowns. But St Andrews hides another legacy. Here, the game of golf was born. The Old Course, with fairways shaped by the sea wind, is the world's most famous golfing ground. Every golfer dreams of playing here, where it all began in the 15th century. Prince William and Kate, for example, met right here, adding a touch of modern romance to this timeless city. Fort William. At the foot of the Titan of the British Highlands, Ben Nevis, Fort William welcomes you as a base for sky-high adventures. The giant Nevis, standing 1,345 meters tall, is the highest mountain in the United Kingdom. A colossus shifting from a Mediterranean climate at its base to Arctic conditions at the summit, even in midsummer. The ascent requires 6 to 8 hours, and a healthy dose of respect for a mountain that has claimed many lives. But those who reach the top are rewarded with panoramas extending to the Atlantic Isles. In Gaelic, it is called the Venomous Mountain, a name betraying the Highlanders' ancestral respect for this capricious peak. A few kilometers away, the Steel Falls plunge 120 meters in a valley that seems plucked from the Lord of the Rings. Fort William, then, is not just a town, but the gateway to Europe's wild outdoors. Glasgow. Cast aside the grey, industrial image of Glasgow. For today, it pulses with the creative energy, like few other cities in the world. Its streets echo with the chords of bands that made history, while vibrant murals transform every urban corner into an open-air gallery. The majestic Gothic cathedral of Street Mungo has dominated the skyline for nearly 800 years. Nearby, the Victorian necropolis rises on a hill, a city of the dead, with mausoleums and monuments telling of the glory of the merchants of that era. But it is in the West End that Glasgow reveals its authentic face. With vintage markets, historic pubs, and the Gothic University of Glasgow, where Adam Smith once studied. Finally, there is the River Clyde, once the artery of the shipbuilding industry that birthed the Titanic. It now reflects futuristic architecture in its waters. Glasgow is a city that has reinvented itself, without losing the spirit of its working class. Eilean Donan Castle. On a rocky islet where three lochs converge, rises Scotland's most iconic fortress. Eilean Donan seems to float upon the water, tethered to the mainland by a stone bridge that appears and vanishes with the tides. Built in the 13th century to defend against Viking raids, this manor has endured sieges, betrayals, and destruction. In 1719, it was razed to the ground after sheltering Spanish soldiers revolting against the British Crown. For 2 centuries, it lay in ruins, until a lieutenant colonel of the MacRae clan rebuilt it, stone by stone, following the original plans. The result is an architectural jewel, serving as the backdrop for numerous films, though no director can compete with the natural spectacles that unfold here. From northern lights visible from the towers, to mists wrapping the castle like a fey cloak, and sunsets setting the loch ablaze, turning the water into gold. Eilean Donan is the very essence of Scotland turned into poetry. Cairngorms National Park. Imagine a wilderness rivaling the size of nations, where you can walk for days without meeting a soul. The Cairngorms are the last bastion of wild Scotland, a subarctic plateau where creatures live that elsewhere are but memories, like lynx, wildcats, and golden eagles. Four of Scotland's 5 highest mountains are found here, including Cairn Gaum, which gives the park its name. These peaks, shaped by millennia of glaciation, hide glacial cirques where snow resists even the summer sun. Here stand the ancient Caledonian pines, survivors of the original Scottish forest, creating natural habitats for red squirrels and deer. It is the wildlife that makes this place unique. Reindeer, reintroduced in the 1950s, graze today on the highlands, just as they did in the Ice Age. On moonless nights, it is said you can still hear the howl of spectral wolves, extinct now for centuries, but never forgotten by these mountains that guard the secrets of ancient Scotland. Glenfinnan Viaduct. "21 stone arches curve for 380 meters across a breathtaking valley. The Glenfinnan Viaduct is the jewel of the West Highland Line, one of the world's most spectacular railways, winding for 164 miles through the wildest Scottish Highlands. This line, completed in 1901, represents a marvel of Victorian engineering, transforming an impassable territory into a corridor of unique beauty. Its builders faced peat bogs, mountains, and lochs, using only cement, sand, and local stone to create a structure that blends perfectly with the landscape. The area is famous, of course, for the viaduct immortalized by Harry Potter, where the cinematic Hogwarts Express passes, offering passengers a marvelous spectacle, uniting history and nature. Beneath the arches, Loch Shiel stretches toward the horizon, while the surrounding highlands draw majestic profiles that lose themselves in the mist of distant peaks. Outer Hebrides. Where Europe fades and the infinite takes hold. The Outer Hebrides are a chain of islands floating in the Atlantic, like stones forgotten by a giant. Lewis, Harris, and Uist are names that taste of wind and sea salt. These islands still speak Gaelic. In the small villages, road signs are written first in this ancient Celtic tongue, and then in English. Furthermore, on these islands, Sunday brings a profound stillness. It is the Lord's Day in these Presbyterian communities, among the most devout in Europe. And then there are the beaches that defy Scottish logic. Luscantire on the Isle of Harris flaunts white sands and turquoise waters, rivaling the Caribbean. The difference lies only in the water temperature, which will quickly remind you where you really are. But it is at Callanish-on-Lewis that you truly grasp the soul of these lands, with stone circles emerging from the heather, older than Stonehenge and equally mysterious. Here, between Christian faith and pagan memory, the Hebrides reveal their true nature, islands where the past never dies, but lives on in the wind that never ceases to blow. Loch Lomond. A shimmering expanse, capturing the hearts of generations of Scots and travelers alike. Loch Lomond is Britain's largest lake by surface area, with 27 square miles of fresh water, set between gentle hills and dramatic mountains. But its true magic lies in the 38 islands, strewn like jewels on its surface. Inchmurrin, the largest isle, hosts castle ruins and deer that swim from shore to shore, while the waters teem with salmon and trout, forever attracting anglers. The eastern shore is gentle and accessible, perfect for picnics and walks, while the west becomes wild, with mountains diving directly into the depths. The loch marks the boundary between lowlands and highlands. Passing through here means entering another Scotland, a land of legends and clans. It is no coincidence, the Scots say, that he who has not seen Loch Lomond has not seen Scotland. Inverness. Welcome to the capital of the Highlands. Inverness is the hub where northern Scots come to trade, where tourists base themselves to explore the mysteries of Loch Ness, and where ancient history and modern life blend seamlessly. The river Ness flows through the city center, creating an almost continental atmosphere. Along its banks, you stroll among gourmet restaurants and artisan shops. Inverness Castle, built on a hill dominating the city, is relatively young. It dates back to 1836, yet rises on the site of a fortress that has watched centuries of Scottish history unfold. From here, all roads depart, leading to the Isles, to lost castles, or to battlefields where Scotland's destiny was decided. Inverness is not merely a destination, but a starting point. Yet it is undoubtedly a place to pause, to breathe the Highland air, and understand what it means to be Scottish in the 21st century. Isle of Mull. Mull welcomes you with the scent of brine and the cry of gulls. This inner Hebridean island is a concentrate of wild Scotland, just 40 minutes by ferry from the mainland. Its jagged coasts hide secret bays where gray seals sunbathe on the rocks. In the interior, sea eagles with enormous wingspans glide over glacial lochs, hunting for salmon. Tobermory, the main port, flaunts colorful houses reflecting in the water, a spectacle that has even inspired children's stories. But Mull guards an even more precious treasure, serving as the gateway to the Isle of Iona, where in 563 AD, Saint Columba founded a monastery that became the cradle of Celtic Christianity. Here, 48 kings of Scotland are buried. But the island's true wild spirit is found in its mountains, where red deer, wildcats, and martens roam. For nature lovers, Mull is nothing short of a haven. Dunatar Castle. On a rock challenging the might of the ocean from 50 meters up, rises one of the world's most dramatic castles. Dunatar seems to grow from the cliff itself, as if nature and man conspired to create the impossible. To reach it, you must descend a steep path winding along the coast. Every step brings you closer to 400 years of Scottish history, where the Scottish crown jewels were hidden during Cromwell's invasion, where William Wallace won one of his earliest victories. The castle is now a ruin, but what a magnificent ruin. Its walls merge with the rock, creating a breathtaking silhouette. On stormy days, Atlantic waves crash against the base of the cliff, flinging sea spray over the tallest turrets. Loch Lomond and the Trossachs. Where the lowlands meet the highlands, a realm of lakes and forests opens up, emerging like a scene from a Celtic fairy tale. The Trossachs are Scotland in miniature. Everything you dream of seeing in Scotland, concentrated in an area the size of Rome. Here, several jewels of water follow one another, among them Loch Lomond, the largest and most celebrated, all surrounded by woods waiting to be explored. The mountains here are not the highest, but they have personality. Ben Venue, for example, means small mountain in Gaelic, but the view from its summit embraces a mosaic of lakes and glens that makes you forget the effort of the climb. In the Trossachs, every trail tells a story, and every loch hides a legend. Portree. The most beautiful port in the Highlands awaits you on the Isle of Skye, with pastel-hued houses overlooking a bay sheltered by mountains. Portree, meaning Port of the King in Gaelic, owes its name to a visit by James V in 1540. The waterfront homes seem plucked from a storybook, with colors of pink, yellow, blue, and green. Each has a history. Each hosts families who have lived here for generations. The harbor bustles with fishing boats, bringing lobster and fresh crab directly to local tables. From here, excursions depart for sky's wonders, like the Old Man of Storr, a 50-meter rock spire defying gravity, or the Quirin, a lunar landscape formed by ancient landslides. Or again, the fairy pools, turquoise ponds where magic is said to linger. But Portree has a charm all its own. Especially in the evening, when the lights turn on and reflect in the water, this small capital of the Inner Hebrides becomes the most romantic place in Scotland. Isle of Arran. Scotland in a nutshell, that is what they call this island. And it is no exaggeration. In just 167 square miles, this island in the Firth of Clyde encompasses everything that makes Scotland unique. Castles, distilleries, mountains, beaches, and a wild nature that makes you forget you are just an hour from Glasgow. The north of the island is pure Highland style, with sharp mountains, wild glens, and Lacranza Castle emerging from the morning mist like a stone ghost. The south is gentler, with green hills where sheep with long, bluish fleeces graze. Here, the Lacranza distillery produces some of Scotland's most appreciated whiskey, while the cheeses are famous throughout the United Kingdom. But the island's true wealth is its people. About 5,000 residents who keep ancient traditions alive. Orkney Islands. "70 islands scattered in the ocean north of Scotland, where time appears to have stood still 5,000 years ago. The Orkneys guard Europe's best preserved Neolithic sites. Skara Brae, for example, a stone village older than Stonehenge, where you can walk among houses with beds and hearths still intact. Or the Ring of Brodgar, a circle of monumental stones rising mysteriously in the heather, witness to ancient rituals. It is incredible to think that these structures have resisted 50 centuries of Atlantic storms. But the Orkneys are important also for their waters, a paradise for marine life, with seals, whales, orcas, and millions of seabirds nesting on the cliffs. The wind is a constant presence here, and the inhabitants have harnessed it into clean energy, producing more electricity than they consume. and exporting the surplus to the mainland. Bielek na Ba. This is the most spectacular road in the British Highlands. Bielek na Ba, which in Gaelic means Pass of the Cattle, is a ribbon of asphalt climbing to 626 meters in altitude, with hairpin turns that take your breath away, and panoramas that make you forget fear. This road, built in 1822, was once the only way to reach the remote village of Applecross, on the western coast, with gradients up to 20% and hairpin curves that defy logic. Precisely for this reason, it has become a pilgrimage for drivers and motorcyclists from all over the world. From the pass, the view embraces the islands of Skye and Rosse, while below extends a wild glen. On the other side lies Applecross, a small paradise overlooking the ocean, where time flows slowly and the Applecross Inn serves fish and chips, with a view of the Inner Hebrides. After such a demanding drive, that plate of fried fish tastes like victory. Down Castle. This golden stone castle holds a secret. It is one of the most famous in cinema, often without recognition. Its massive walls and imposing towers have served as the backdrop for films and TV series that have conquered the world. The castle rises on a hill dominating a river in a green valley, built 600 years ago as a true fortress, with walls 2 meters thick, soaring towers, and an entrance designed as a trap for enemies. Whoever built it certainly knew how to defend themselves. Today, however, it has become famous for entirely different reasons. First, it appeared in a cult British comedy. Then it became the home of a Scottish clan in a hit romantic series. So, medieval fortress became a Hollywood icon, proving that even the oldest stones can capture modern hearts. Ulla Pool. A small fishing port overlooking a fjord that feels Norwegian. Ulla Pool is the gem of the Western Highlands, where colorful boats sway in a harbor protected by mountains, and the scent of fresh fish mixes with the salt air. Founded in 1788 to develop the herring industry, Ulla Pool still maintains the appearance of a perfectly preserved Georgian village, with white houses reflecting in the waters of Loch Broom, creating postcards that seem too beautiful to be true. Ferries depart from here to the Outer Hebrides, but the town itself deserves a prolonged stay, thanks to restaurants serving seafood straight from the nets, while local pubs resonate with traditional music on summer evenings. There is a museum telling the story of this resilient community. Or you can simply stroll along the harbor at sunset, when the mountains turn pink. Callanish stones. Older than Stonehenge, more mysterious than the pyramids. The Callanish stones on the Isle of Lewis are an enigma carved in granite, challenging archaeologists and visitors for 5,000 years. "13 monoliths arranged in a Celtic cross, with a central circle guarding a Neolithic tomb. But why did our ancestors transport these enormous stones here? To observe the stars? For religious rituals? To mark territory? No one knows for certain. What we do know is that every 18.5 years, the full moon seems to walk along the southern horizon, touching the hills surrounding the site. The builders of Callanish surely understood this astronomy and oriented the stones to capture it. Furthermore, the name of this site in Gaelic means hard promontory. Here, the Atlantic wind is ceaseless, bringing mists that wrap the megaliths, creating a supernatural atmosphere. Dundee. The city of the three J's, jute, jam, and journalism. Dundee was for decades an industrial city overlooking the Tay estuary, famous for having invented marmalade and producing jute canvas for the entire British Empire. Today, has reinvented itself as Scotland's capital of design and technology. The new V and a Museum of Design has transformed the city waterfront into a world-class cultural destination, but Dundee maintains its working-class character. In its pubs, locals still drink local ale, telling stories of when jute mills employed thousands of workers. There is also the Ars discovery. The ship Captain Scott sailed to explore Antarctica. Moored in the harbor, it serves as a floating museum. Aberdeen. The city of granite overlooking the North Sea has a port that tells the tale of two Scotlands. On one side, fishing boats still bringing in fresh cod and haddock. On the other, supply ships serving the North Sea oil platforms. Aberdeen is the energy capital of Europe, but it maintains its maritime soul. The old fishing village, with its grey granite cottages, coexists with the modern giants of industry. Along Union Street, the main thoroughfare, tackle shops still stand next to luxury boutiques. The city itself is a marvel of granite architecture, where 19th century buildings and Gothic churches create a unique, urban landscape shining with 1,000 shades of silver. When the sunlight strikes the stone, Aberdeen is a city that works, that produces, that never stops. Its port is the beating heart of an economy, looking to the future without forgetting its roots. Isle of Islay. Welcome to the pilgrimage site for whiskey lovers. Islay is an island of the Inner Hebrides, hosting 9 distilleries in just 240 square miles. Here, whiskey has a flavor that divides the world between those who love it and those who hate it. Precisely for this reason, the island produces some of the most distinctive drams on Earth. The secret is peat, that ancient fuel burned to dry the malted barley, imbuing the spirit with unmistakable smoky notes. Furthermore, the coasts host 20,000 barnacle geese, arriving from the Arctic every winter, creating an extraordinary natural spectacle. The island has a population of only 3,000 inhabitants. But during the annual Whiskey Festival, thousands of enthusiasts arrive from across the globe. For 1 week, Islay becomes incredibly lively and raucous. Plockton. Nestled on the shores of a Scottish fjord, this small highland village is an unexpected corner of paradise. Known as the Village of Palms, thanks to a mild microclimate, allowing exotic flora to thrive at such improbable latitudes. Plockton looks as if painted by a romantic artist. Its colorful cottages reflect in the tranquil waters of Loch Carron, while in the background, Scottish mountains create a dramatic frame. Here, time flows slowly, dictated by the tides. Fishermen return with their catch, supplying local kitchens with fresh seafood. Boat excursions to spot seals, or quiet walks along the coast, offer intimate contact with wild, unspoiled nature, giving visitors a profound sense of peace and unparalleled beauty. Concluding this visual journey through Scotland, we have traveled from the charm of misty highlands and medieval castles to historic cities and wild landscapes, exploring together not just places, but the traditions that make every corner of this land unique. We hope these images and stories have deepened your understanding and sparked a desire to explore for yourself the extraordinary beauty of this fascinating country.